The crystal towers of Zephyria Prime sparkled under 3 different suns. Inside the largest tower, beings from across the galaxy gathered in the Great Council Chamber. The room was huge, with floating platforms for each species. Some needed different air to breathe. Others lived in energy fields, and a few existed as pure thought. Ambassador Kethvar of the Ethereals floated above his platform. His body was made of blue light that shifted and moved like water. Next to him sat the mechanoid delegate, a machine being with red glowing eyes and metal parts that clicked when he moved. Across the room, the voidling representative appeared as a dark cloud with tiny stars inside. They were all here to talk about the same thing. Earth. The humans. The application that had arrived 3 cycles ago asking to join the Galactic Council. Kethvar's light grew brighter as he spoke. We are here to discuss the most amusing request we have received in centuries. The humans of Earth want to join us. His voice echoed with telepathic laughter that made other beings shake their heads. The mechanoid delegate's eyes flashed. My calculations show they are exactly 2,847 years behind acceptable technology standards. They still use chemical rockets to leave their planet. Chemical rockets. The machine being made a sound like grinding. Gears, which was how mechanoids laughed. A tall gray being with 4 arms stood up. This was Ambassador Zeltoth from the Hegemony Worlds. They have nuclear weapons, he said in a deep voice. Nuclear weapons. We stopped using such primitive tools before their species learned to make fire. Around the chamber, other beings nodded and made their own sounds of agreement. The snake-like serpentines hissed. The crystal beings chimed like bells. The gas creatures swirled in patterns that meant they were laughing. Kethvar raised one glowing hand. Let me share what our scouts found when they visited their world. The air above the center of the chamber began to glow. Images appeared showing Earth from space, then cities, then humans walking around, driving cars, using computers. Look at them, Kethvar said. They still need vehicles to move around their planet. They eat dead plants and animals. They sleep for 8 hours every day because their bodies are so weak. They get sick from tiny organisms. They die if they do not breathe air for just a few minutes. More laughter filled the chamber. The voidling's cloud swirled faster. In our energy form, we have existed for millions of years. These meat creatures live for less than 100 rotations around their star. The mechanoid's red eyes grew brighter. They have not even learned to transfer their minds to metal bodies. They are trapped in flesh that breaks and dies. How can such beings think they belong among us? Ambassador Zeltoth's 4 arms moved as he spoke. My people have conquered 47 star systems. We have weapons that can destroy planets. We have ships faster than light itself. What do the humans have? They have barely reached their own moon. An insect-like being with 6 legs clicked its mandibles. Our hive mind connects billions of individuals across 12 worlds. We think as one perfect organism. These humans cannot even agree on simple things. They fight wars among themselves over resources and beliefs. The chamber filled with more sounds of agreement. Every being there had reasons to look down on humanity. They had technologies that seemed like magic. They had lived for thousands of years. They controlled vast areas of space. Kethvar's form grew even brighter. The question is not whether to accept them. The question is whether we should even bother to respond to their request. Perhaps we should ignore them completely. But before anyone could answer, a new voice spoke. It came from the communication system that connected all parts of the galaxy. The voice was mechanical and urgent. Emergency. Transmission from the Outer Rim monitoring stations. The Draconian Empire has mobilized the Extinction Fleet. Repeat, the Extinction Fleet is moving. Silence fell over the chamber like a heavy blanket. Every being stopped moving. Even the gas creatures became still. The Draconian Empire was the most feared military force in the galaxy. They had destroyed hundreds of civilizations. Their extinction fleet had never been defeated. When the Draconians decided a species was a threat, That species disappeared from the galaxy forever. Ambassador Zeltoth was the first to speak. His voice was quieter now. Which direction is the fleet moving? The communication system crackled. The extinction fleet is heading toward the Sol system, toward Earth. A wave of surprise moved through the chamber. Then, slowly, the surprise changed into something else. Excitement, cruel satisfaction. Kethvar's light pulsed with what looked like joy. How perfect. The Draconians will solve our human problem for us. The mechanoid delegate's eyes flickered. The extinction fleet contains 10,000 warships. Each ship is larger than the humans' biggest cities. The fleet has planet cracker, weapons and reality warping drives. The snake-like serpentine ambassador hissed softly. General Thrackmore commands that fleet. He has never shown mercy. He has never left survivors. Around the chamber, beings began to talk excitedly. This was better than they could have hoped for. The humans had applied to join the Galactic Council. Now the most powerful military force in the galaxy was heading to destroy them. It was almost too good to be true. Ambassador Zeltoth stood again. We should watch this. We should record what happens when a primitive species meets real galactic power. Yes, agreed the insect being. This will be educational. Other primitive species will learn from the humans' fate. Kethvar's form grew bright with pleasure. The timing is perfect. The humans asked to join us. Instead, they will be erased from existence. This will send a clear message to any other primitive species that might have similar ideas. The Voidling's cloud swirled in patterns of satisfaction. Perhaps we should thank the Draconians afterward. They will save us the trouble of rejecting the human application. More sounds of agreement filled the chamber. The crystal beings chimed in harmonious patterns. The gas creatures formed shapes that meant happiness. Even the usually serious mechanoid delegate made pleased clicking sounds. The communication system spoke again. Long-range sensors show the extinction fleet has entered hyperspace. Estimated arrival at Sol system in 72 standard hours. Kethvar raised his glowing arms. Then it is decided. We will observe the destruction of Earth and its primitive inhabitants. We will record everything for our archives. Future species will see what happens to those who reach beyond their proper place in the galaxy. No one in the chamber spoke against this decision. No one suggested helping the humans. No one even suggested warning them. They all agreed that humanity deserved whatever was coming. The beings began to leave the chamber, floating back to their ships and worlds. They would watch from safe distances as the Draconian extinction fleet erased Earth from the galaxy. They would see the humans' primitive weapons fail against superior technology. They would witness the end of a species that had dared to think it belonged among the stars. As the chamber emptied, Kethvar remained floating above his platform. His light pulsed with satisfaction. Soon, the galaxy would be rid of another primitive nuisance. The humans would join the long list of species that had been destroyed for reaching too far too fast. He had no idea how wrong he was about everything. The command ship Death's Herald moved through space like a dark mountain. It was 20 kilometers long and covered in black armor that had never been scratched by enemy weapons. Inside its massive bridge, General Thrackmore stood looking at the star map. Thrackmore was 12 feet tall with scales that gleamed like dark metal. His claws could cut through starship walls. His teeth were sharp enough to bite through steel. Like all Draconians, he was built for war and had never known defeat. Behind him, Admiral Zexthul approached. She was smaller than the general, but still 9 feet tall. Her red scales showed her high rank in the Draconian military. General, the fleet is ready for the final jump to the Sol system. Thrackmore turned his massive head. His yellow eyes glowed in the dim light of the bridge. How many ships do we have? 10,000 warships, General. Every ship in the extinction fleet. We also have 50 planet crackers and 100 reality warping vessels. The general's mouth opened in what passed for a draconian smile. His teeth gleamed. 10,000 ships to destroy one primitive world. The other species will think we are being wasteful. Admiral Zexthul's scales rippled with amusement. The Galactic Council requested that we make an example of these humans. They want other primitive species to see what happens when they reach too far. Thrackmore walked to the viewing screen that showed the vast fleet around them. Thousands of warships stretched in all directions. Each ship was the size of a human city. Their weapons could destroy moons. Their shields could stop any known weapon in the galaxy. "Tell me about these humans," Thrackmore said. Zexthul activated a holographic display. Images of Earth appeared in the air between them. They live on one world in a system with a single yellow star. They have not yet learned to travel faster than light. Their biggest ships use chemical rockets. The general made a sound like grinding rocks, which was how Draconians laughed. "Chemical rockets? We used those toys 1,000,000 years ago." "Their weapons are equally primitive," the admiral continued. "They fight with metal projectiles and chemical explosives. Their most powerful weapons split atoms to create explosions. They have no energy shields, no plasma cannons, no quantum disruptors." More images appeared. Human cities, human vehicles, humans themselves walking around in their weak organic bodies. "Look at them," Thrackmore said, pointing a massive claw at the images. "They are so small, so fragile. They cannot even survive in the vacuum of space without artificial protection." Zexthul nodded. "Our intelligence shows they have never fought a space war. They have no experience with orbital combat. They have never faced an enemy from outside their own system." The general turned back to the star map. A red line showed the path to Earth. "How long until we arrive?" 36 hours, General. Our scouts report that the outer human colonies have detected our approach. They are sending radio messages warning their homeworld." Thrackmore's eyes glowed brighter. "Radio messages. They still use radio waves for communication. We stopped using such slow methods before their species evolved." On the display, new images appeared. Human space stations that looked like metal cans connected by tubes. Human ships that were tiny compared to Draconian vessels. Human colonies on dead rocks that they called worlds. "Their defenses are laughable," Admiral Zexthul said. "Our sensors show a few patrol boats in the outer system, some mining ships that they have tried to convert into fighting vessels, orbital platforms that could not stop our smallest fighter craft." The general walked to his command chair, which was made from the skull of a space whale. "This will be the shortest war in Draconian history. We will arrive, destroy everything in the system, and be home in time for the victory feast." Around way. The bridge, other Draconian officers nodded their agreement. They had fought in hundreds of wars. They had destroyed civilizations that were far more advanced than the humans. Species with energy beings, machine intelligences, and collective minds had all fallen to Draconian might. "General," said the communications officer, "we are receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council." "Put it through," Thrackmore ordered. The image of Ambassador Kethvar appeared on the main screen. His blue light pulsed with excitement. "General," Thrackmore, "the Council wishes to thank you for taking care of our human problem." The general bared his teeth. "It will be our pleasure, Ambassador. How do you wish us to proceed?" "Make it memorable," Kethvar said. "Other primitive species should see what happens when they try to reach beyond their place. Make sure there are survivors to spread the tale." Thrackmore nodded slowly. "There will be survivors. Broken ones. They will tell the galaxy how quickly the human empire fell." After the transmission ended, Admiral Zexthul approached again. "General, our long-range sensors are picking up strange readings from the human colonies." "What kind of readings?" The admiral looked puzzled. "Empty space, General. As our scout ships pass near human settlements, the settlements disappear." Thrackmore turned his massive head. "Disappear? Destroyed?" "No, General. Just gone. No debris, no energy signatures, no signs of evacuation. The colonies are simply not there anymore." The general thought about this for a moment. Then he made the grinding laugh sound again. "They are running. The cowardly humans are abandoning their colonies and fleeing deeper into their system. They know what is coming." This made sense to the other officers. Many primitive species ran when they saw the extinction fleet approaching. It was smart behavior, even if it only delayed the inevitable. "Let them run," Thrackmore said. "It will make the hunt more interesting. We will chase them to their homeworld and destroy them there." The bridge crew began preparing for the final jump to the Sol system. Weapons were charged. Shields were raised. The planet cracker devices were brought online. In 36 hours, they would arrive at Earth. In 37 hours, the human species would no longer exist. But as the fleet prepared for battle, strange reports continued to come from the scout ships. Human installations continued to disappear without any explanation. Ships that were there one moment were gone the next. Even the debris from destroyed human vessels seemed to vanish. Admiral Zexthul brought these reports to General Thrackmore. "General, our scouts cannot find any human ships to fight. They detect them on sensors, but when they move to attack, there is nothing there." Thrackmore's yellow eyes narrowed. "Are you telling me that humans have stealth technology?" "Unknown, General. Our sensors show the ships clearly, but when our weapons fire, they hit empty space." The general considered this. Some advanced species had cloaking devices or stealth fields, but humans were supposed to be primitive. They should not have such technology. "It does not matter," he decided. "When we reach Earth, there will be nowhere for them to hide. We will crack their planet open and burn their cities from orbit. Stealth technology cannot protect them from planet killers." The countdown to Earth continued. 20 hours, 10 hours, 5 hours. The extinction fleet prepared for the easiest victory in its history. 10,000 warships against one primitive world. The humans might have some tricks, but tricks would not save them from overwhelming force. As the fleet made its final jump toward Earth, every Draconian warrior was confident of victory. They had never been defeated. They had never even been seriously challenged. They had no idea they were jumping into a trap that had been prepared for months. They had no idea that the humans they thought were running in fear were actually herding the fleet exactly where they wanted it to go. The greatest military force in the galaxy was about to learn that there were worse things than defeat. They were about to learn what it felt like to be prey. The extinction fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. 10,000 Draconian warships spread across space like a dark cloud. Each ship was ready for battle, weapons charged, shields up, planet crackers armed and ready. General Thrackmore stood on the bridge of Death's Herald and looked at the tactical display. The inner planets showed up as small dots. Earth was there, third from the sun, exactly where the intelligence report said it would be. "Report," he ordered. Admiral Zexthul studied her instruments. "General, we are detecting human presence throughout the system. Multiple colonies on different worlds, orbital stations around several planets. Mining operations in the asteroid belt," the general nodded. This was what they expected to find. A primitive species spread thinly across their home system, waiting to be crushed by superior force. "Begin the advance," Thrackmore commanded. "Destroy everything. Leave nothing alive." The massive fleet began moving toward the inner system. The first targets were the outer colonies on distant moons and asteroids. These should be easy kills. Undefended mining stations and research posts. The lead ships approached the first human settlement on Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. Sensors showed a small colony with maybe 10,000 humans. The Draconian destroyer Bone Crusher moved in to destroy it. Captain Vextar commanded the destroyer. He had destroyed hundreds of enemy settlements in his career. This should take only minutes. "Target locked," reported his weapons officer. "Colony in range. Fire all weapons." Captain Vextar ordered. Plasma cannons and missile tubes erupted with deadly fire. Enough firepower to level a city struck the human colony. When the explosions cleared, the sensors showed only empty ice, but there was no debris, no signs of destruction, no heat signatures from fires or explosions. The colony was simply gone, as if it had never existed. "Scan again," the captain ordered. His sensor officer worked at his console. "Sir, I am detecting no traces of the colony. No metal fragments, no biological remains, no energy signatures, nothing." Captain Vextar stared at the readings. In all his years of war, he had never seen anything like this. When you destroyed a settlement, there was always debris, always some sign of what had been there. "Report to the fleet command," he finally ordered. Target destroyed. But he did not feel good about the report. Something was wrong. The same thing happened at the next colony, and the next. Human settlements throughout the outer system simply vanished when the Draconian ships attacked them. No debris, no survivors, no evidence they had ever existed. On the fleet command ship, Admiral Zexthul brought the reports to General Thrackmore. General, we have destroyed 17 human colonies, but the destruction patterns are unusual. Unusual how? No debris, General, no signs of battle. The colonies are simply gone. Thrackmore's yellow eyes narrowed. Are you saying humans have learned to completely vaporize their own settlements? Unknown, General, but there is something else. Our ships report seeing the colonies clearly on sensors before attack. Then, after weapons impact, the sensors show the colonies were never there. This made no sense to the general. He had seen many species use different defensive tactics. Some had powerful shields. Some had weapons that could fight back. Some tried to hide their settlements. But he had never seen anything just disappear. Continue the advance, he ordered. Whatever tricks they are using, it will not save them when we reach their homeworld. The fleet moved deeper into the system. They passed the orbit of Mars and detected more human settlements. Space stations orbited the red planet. Mining operations worked the asteroid belt. The inner system seemed full of human activity. But as the Draconian ships advanced, the same thing kept happening. Human installations would show clearly on sensors. Then when the Draconians moved to attack, they would find empty space. Captain Mordak commanded the heavy cruiser Death Wind. His job was to destroy the human orbital stations around Mars. As his ship approached, he could see the stations clearly on his viewing screen. Large metal structures spinning slowly in space. All weapons target the closest station, he ordered. Weapons locked on target, Captain. Fire. The heavy cruiser's main guns fired. Streams of plasma and quantum disruptors struck the space station. The weapons hit their target perfectly, but when the energy dissipated, there was nothing there. No wreckage, no explosion. No trace that a space station had ever been in that location. Sensor error, Captain Mordak decided. The station must have been a sensor ghost, a reflection or false reading. But his sensor officer looked puzzled. Captain, the station showed on 5 different sensor types: visual, thermal, electromagnetic, quantum, and gravitational. All sensors confirmed a solid object with a human crew of 300 beings. The captain had no answer for this. Sensors could malfunction, but not 5 different types at the same time. Similar reports came from across the fleet. Human targets that appeared solid and real until Draconian weapons struck them. Then they simply were not there anymore. General Thrackmore grew more and more angry as the reports came in. Are you telling me that this entire system is full of illusions? That nothing we are seeing is real? Admiral Zexthul checked her instruments. Again, General, our sensors are working perfectly. The targets appear real in every way. But when we attack them, they disappear. The general finished. This is some kind of advanced holographic technology. The humans are trying to confuse us. This explanation made more sense than the alternatives. Perhaps the humans were more advanced than intelligence had suggested. Perhaps they had learned to create very realistic illusions. Order the fleet to ignore these ghost targets, Thrackmore commanded. We go straight to Earth. We will attack the planet itself. They cannot make an entire world disappear. But even as he gave this order, stranger reports were coming in. Ships throughout the fleet were reporting equipment malfunctions. Sensors would work perfectly, then suddenly show impossible readings. Weapons would fire at targets that sensors confirmed but hit nothing. Captain Jexral of the battleship Starkiller reported the strangest incident. General, we detected a human patrol fleet approaching our position. 12 small ships moving to intercept us. We fired our main weapons and destroyed all 12 ships, confirmed kills. But then our sensors showed the same 12 ships attacking us from a different direction. Did you destroy them again? We tried, General, but our weapons seemed to pass right through them. Then the ships just went away. These reports made no sense. The general had fought energy beings who could change form. He had battled machine intelligences that could copy themselves. But he had never encountered anything like this. As the fleet approached Earth's orbit, more strange things happened. Draconian ships would detect human vessels nearby, but when they turned to engage, they would find their own ships instead. Patrol groups would report seeing other Draconian vessels where none should be. Communication between ships became difficult. Radio messages would be received from ships that were on the other side of the system. Ships would respond to orders that had never been given. Admiral Zexthul brought her concerns to the general. "Sir, I believe we are dealing with some kind of space-time distortion field. The humans may have weapons that affect reality itself." Throckmore rejected this idea. "Impossible. Humans are primitives. They do not have reality-warping technology." But deep down, he was beginning to worry. The extinction fleet had never encountered anything like this. His ships were the most advanced in the galaxy. His warriors were the best trained. His weapons could destroy planets. Yet somehow, a primitive species was making his entire fleet look foolish. Targets appeared and disappeared. Ships seemed to be in multiple places at once. Simple attacks on defenseless colonies were failing for reasons no one could explain. As the fleet finally reached Earth's orbit, the general made a decision. "Prepare the planet crackers. We will split their world in half and be done with this nonsense." But when the fleet's sensors turned toward Earth, they found something impossible. The planet showed clearly on all instruments. Cities glowed with light on the night side. Orbital stations surrounded the world. Everything looked normal, but there were also 10,000 Draconian ships in orbit. Ships identical to the extinction fleet. Ships that had not been there moments before. Admiral Zexthul stared at her readings. "General, our sensors show our own fleet already in orbit around Earth, but we just arrived." Throckmore looked at the display. 2 identical extinction fleets now surrounded Earth. 20,000 Draconian warships were there. Should only be 10,000. "Which fleet is real?" he asked. His admiral had no answer. According to every sensor they had, both fleets were equally real. That was when the message came. It was broadcast on all frequencies in perfect Draconian language. "You should have stayed home." The voice was human, calm, almost friendly. Then, one by one, ships in the other fleet began to disappear. Not destroyed, not damaged. Simply gone, as if they had never existed. And slowly, terrifyingly, ships in the real extinction fleet began to disappear too. Captain Jexral was the first to understand what was happening to the extinction fleet. His battleship Starkiller had been one of the most feared ships in the galaxy. Now it drifted in space, most of its crew gone. They had not been killed. They had not been captured. They had simply stopped existing. Jexral sat alone on his bridge, recording his final message. Around him, empty chairs showed where his officers had been sitting moments before. The captain's hands shook as he spoke into the communication device. "This is Captain Jexral of the battleship Starkiller. If anyone receives this message, do not come to the Sol system. The humans are not what we thought. They are not what anyone thought." He paused and looked around the empty bridge. My weapons officer Vectar was sitting at his station. He was checking our quantum disruptors when something walked onto the bridge. I say something because I am not sure it was human. The captain's voice grew quieter. It looked human, small like their species always looks, wearing their primitive clothing. But it walked through our shields like they were not there. It walked through our armor like it was air. Our security systems never detected it. Jexral stood up and walked to where his weapons officer had been. The chair was still warm. The thing looked at Vectar and said one word. Gone. And Vectar just was not there anymore. Not dead. Not moved. Not teleported. He had never existed. More sounds came from other parts of the ship. Footsteps in corridors that should be empty. Voices speaking in human languages that no Draconian could understand. They are all over my ship now, the captain continued. Humans who should not be able to breathe our atmosphere. Humans who walk through solid metal. Humans who appear and disappear like ghosts. Through the bridge windows he could see other Draconian ships. Some were dark and dead. Others showed signs of fighting. A few were trying to escape but could not enter hyperspace. Something was blocking their jump drives. "I have commanded warships. For 300 years, Jexral said. I have fought energy beings and machine gods. I have seen weapons that could destroy stars. But I have never seen anything like this." The captain turned on his ship's external sensors. "The humans are not using weapons. They are not fighting us. They are editing us out of existence. Ship by ship, warrior by warrior. They are deciding that we were never here." A new sound came from behind him. Footsteps. Human footsteps. The captain turned around. A human female stood in the doorway. She was small, maybe 5.5 feet tall. She wore simple gray clothing. Her hair was brown and tied back. She looked completely ordinary except for her eyes. Her eyes held depths that seemed to go on forever. "Captain Jexral," she said, in perfect Draconian. "You have been recording your experiences." The captain reached for his sidearm, but his hand passed through it. The weapon was still there, but he could not touch it. "What are you?" "I am Dr. Sarah Chen," the human said. "I work for the Earth Defense Cooperative. I am here to explain what is happening to your fleet." Jexral tried to back away, but his feet would not move. "You are using some kind of paralysis weapon." "No," Dr. Chen said. "You are simply becoming less real. It is not painful. Most beings do not even notice it happening." The captain looked down at his hands. They seemed solid, but there was something strange about them. They looked slightly transparent, like images projected in the air. "What have you done to us?" Dr. Chen walked to the center of the bridge. She seemed to glide rather than walk. "Your species made a mistake. You assumed that primitive meant helpless. You thought that being behind in traditional technology meant we had nothing to offer." She gestured toward the viewing screen, which now showed Earth hanging in space. 50 years ago, our scientists discovered something that the rest of the galaxy missed. We learned that reality is not fixed. It is more like a story that the universe tells itself. The captain tried to understand. "You are speaking in riddles." "Think of it this way," Dr. Chen said. "Your weapons destroy matter by applying energy. Your shields stop weapons by absorbing energy. Everything your people do follows the same rules. Force against force. Energy against energy." She smiled, but it was not a cruel smile. It was almost sad. "We learned to work with probability instead. We learned to change what is likely to happen. Then we learned to change what is possible to happen. Finally, we learned to change what did happen." Jexral felt himself becoming lighter. He could see through his own arms now. "You are erasing us from time?" "Not from time," Dr. Chen corrected. "From possibility. Your fleet existed. Your empire existed. Your conquests existed. But now they exist in a place where they never interacted with humanity." The captain tried to access his ship's computers, but his fingers passed through the controls. "This is impossible. You cannot rewrite reality." "Reality is quantum," the human explained. "At the smallest level, everything exists in multiple states until observed. We simply became very good at observing the states we preferred." Around them, the bridge began to fade. The walls became transparent. The equipment became ghostly. Soon only Dr. Chen remained solid and real. "Your General Thrackmore is experiencing the same thing," she said. "Right now he is talking to one of my colleagues. Dr. Martinez is explaining to him how we evacuated our colonies by moving them to parallel probability states." The captain could barely speak now. His voice sounded like wind through empty spaces. "The colonies we destroyed were never there," Dr. Chen confirmed. "We moved them to realities where your fleet took different paths through space. The people are safe. They are just existing in possibilities where you never found them." Everything around them was fading except for the human woman. She remained perfectly solid and real while the rest of the universe became shadows. "Why are you telling me this?" the captain whispered. "Because someone needs to carry the message back," Dr. Chen said. "Your empire needs to know what happened here. The galaxy needs to understand what humanity really is." She raised her hand, and suddenly the bridge became solid again. The captain could touch his controls. His crew was back at their stations, looking confused but alive. "We are letting some of your ships return home," Dr. Chen said. "You will carry recordings of what you saw here. You will tell your leaders about humanity's true nature." The captain looked around at his restored bridge crew. They all looked dazed, like people waking from strange dreams. "How many ships are you allowing to survive?" 12, the human answered. 12 ships out of 10,000. Enough to carry the story, not enough to threaten anyone. Dr. Chen began to fade, like a ghost losing strength. "Tell them that humanity was never primitive. We were hiding. We were learning. We were becoming something that had never existed in the galaxy before." The captain found his voice. "What are you? What have you become?" The human woman smiled one last time before disappearing completely. "We are the species that learned to edit reality, and we are very, very good at it." Alone with his confused crew, Captain Jexrel looked out at space around Earth. The extinction fleet was gone. 10,000 ships had simply stopped existing. Only 12 vessels remained, scattered and lost. On his communication system, he could hear the voices of other, surviving captains. They were all asking the same questions. Where was the fleet? What had happened? How were they still alive when everyone else was gone? But Captain Jexrel knew the truth. The humans had not destroyed the extinction fleet. They had convinced reality that the fleet had never come to the Sol system in the first place. He began recording his message to the Draconian Empire, a message that would change how every species in the galaxy thought about humanity. A message that would make Earth the most feared world in known space. The message that would announce humanity's true arrival among the stars. The emergency session of the Galactic Council began 12 hours after the last transmission from the Sol system. The great chamber on Zephyria Prime was filled with beings in panic. Representatives from hundreds of worlds had come to hear what had happened to the Draconian extinction fleet. Ambassador Kethvar floated above his platform, but his usual bright blue light was dim with worry. Across the chamber, the mechanoid delegate sat motionless, his red eyes flickering as he processed impossible data. The voidling representative had collapsed into a tight, dark ball of fear. At the center of the chamber, a holographic display showed the 12 surviving Draconian ships limping back toward their empire. Each ship carried recordings that no one wanted to believe. The Serpentine ambassador was the first to speak, his voice hissing with terror. "Show us the recordings." Again, Kethvar's light pulsed weakly. "We have seen them 17 times. They do not change." But the display activated anyway. The recording came from Captain Jexrel of the battleship Starkiller. His voice was broken and small as he described watching his crew members simply stop existing. Other recordings showed empty space where the extinction fleet had been. Sensor logs that made no sense. Reports of humans walking through solid matter like ghosts. The most disturbing recording came from Admiral Zexthol's flagship. It showed the Admiral herself talking to empty air, having a conversation with someone invisible. But the ship's computers had recorded a human voice responding to her questions. A voice that explained how humanity had learned to manipulate probability itself. When the recordings ended, silence fell over the chamber like a heavy blanket. Every being present was trying to understand what they had witnessed. The greatest military force in the galaxy had been erased from existence by a species they had called primitive. Ambassador Zeltoth of the Hegemony Worlds spoke first. His 4 arms trembled as he pointed at the display. "This is not possible. No species can rewrite reality. It violates every law of physics we know." The mechanoid delegate's eyes flashed. "My calculations show that the events described in these recordings require technology at least 50,000 years more advanced than our current understanding." "But the humans are primitives," hissed the Serpentine. "They barely reach their own moon. They use chemical rockets. They have biological bodies that die in less than a century." Kethvar's light grew even dimmer. Perhaps that was the point. Perhaps they wanted us to think they were primitive. A new voice spoke from the chamber's communication system. It was calm, pleasant, and completely human. "May I address the council?" Every being in the chamber froze. The voice had come from their most secure communication network, a network that was supposed to be impossible to hack, a network that used quantum encryption and reality-locked channels. "Who is speaking?" Kethvar demanded, his light flickering, with fear. "My name is Dr. Sarah Chen. I represent humanity in matters of galactic diplomacy." The holographic display in the center of the chamber activated. A human woman appeared, sitting in what looked like a simple office. She was small and unremarkable, wearing plain gray clothing, but her presence seemed to fill the entire chamber. "How did you access our communications?" the mechanoid asked. Dr. Chen smiled politely. "We have been monitoring your discussions about our membership application. We thought it was time to participate directly." Ambassador Zeltoth's forearms gestured angrily. "Your species destroyed the Draconian extinction fleet." "No," Dr. Chen corrected gently. "We edited them out of their current probability state. Most of the crews are alive and well. They simply exist in realities where they never threatened humanity." The Voidling representative finally spoke, its voice a whisper of energy. "What do you want from us?" "The same thing we have always wanted," the human said. "Membership in the Galactic Council, a place among the civilized species of the galaxy. Trade agreements, cultural exchange, peace." Kethavar's light pulsed with desperate confusion. "But you just eliminated the most powerful military force in known space. Why would you need our permission for anything?" Dr. Chen's expression grew sad. "Because we do not want to rule the galaxy through fear. We want to be partners, not overlords. We want to learn from you and share what we know. We want to build something better than an empire built on conquest." The insect being with 6 legs clicked its mandibles nervously. "How do we know you will not erase us too if we displease you?" "Because that is not who we are," the human replied. "Yes, we have the ability to edit reality, but we use that ability only when threatened. The Draconians came to our system with planet-killer weapons. They intended to commit genocide against our entire species. We defended ourselves." She gestured, and the holographic display changed. Now it showed human colonies throughout their solar system, busy space stations, ships moving between worlds, millions of humans living and working in space. "This is what we really are," Dr. Chen said. "We are explorers, scientists, artists, and dreamers. We want to see new worlds and meet new peoples. We want to add our voices to the great conversation of galactic civilization." Ambassador Zeltoth leaned forward. "But you hid your true nature. You made us think you were primitive." "We were cautious," the human admitted. "Our early observations of galactic politics showed us that advanced species often destroy or enslave less advanced ones. We chose to remain hidden until we could defend ourselves." The mechanoid's red eyes flickered rapidly. "Your technology makes all our weapons obsolete, our shields useless, our strategies meaningless." Dr. Chen nodded slowly. "Yes, it does. But we are not interested in conquest. We are interested in cooperation." She stood up from her chair, and the image moved with her. "Let me show you something that might ease your fears." The display changed again. Now it showed Earth from space. But this Earth was different. Massive structures surrounded the planet. Space elevators reached into orbit. Artificial rings provided more living space. It was clearly the work of incredibly advanced technology. "This is Earth as it exists in probability state 7847, Dr. Chen explained. "In this reality, we never hid our capabilities. We announced ourselves to the galaxy 50 years ago as an advanced species." The image shifted to show space battles. Human ships fighting against various alien fleets, planets burning, entire solar systems turned into battlefields. In that reality, we are locked in constant warfare with every other species in the galaxy. Fear and mistrust have created endless conflict. Billions die every year. No one trusts anyone. No one builds anything beautiful or lasting. The image changed back to the simple office where Dr. Chen sat. "We chose this reality instead, the one where we hid until we were strong enough to defend ourselves but not so proud that we declared war on everyone." Kethvar's light was starting to brighten again. "You are saying you want peace?" We are saying we want to earn our place among you, the human replied. We want to prove that advanced technology does not have to mean domination. The chamber fell silent as every being considered this. The humans had just demonstrated power beyond anything in the galaxy. They could rewrite reality itself. They could eliminate entire fleets without firing a shot. They could probably erase any species they chose from existence. But instead of making demands, they were asking for friendship. The Voidling was the first to respond. What guarantees can you give us that you will not use your power against peaceful species? Dr. Chen smiled. The same guarantee you give each other. Our word, our actions, and our character. We know that trust must be earned. She gestured again, and the display showed human ships approaching various worlds throughout the galaxy. We would like to send ambassadors to each of your worlds, small delegations that can begin cultural and scientific exchanges. We want you to know us as we really are, the Serpentine ambassador hissed softly. And if we refuse? Then we will remain in our own system and wait until you are ready, Dr. Chen said simply. We have learned patience. We can wait as long as necessary. Ambassador Zeltoth stood up on his platform. I have a question about the Draconians. What happens to their empire now that their fleet is gone? Their empire continues, the human replied. We removed their ability to commit genocide, not their right to exist. They can still trade, explore, and grow. They simply cannot destroy other species anymore. This caused a stir throughout the chamber. The Draconian Empire had terrorized the galaxy for millennia. The idea that they could still exist but no longer threaten others was almost too good to believe. Kethavar's light grew bright again as he made his decision. I move to accept humanity's application for council membership. Seconded, said the mechanoid immediately. Agreed, hissed the Serpentine. One by one, every representative in the chamber voted to accept humanity, not because they had been forced to, but because they chose to. As the session ended, Dr. Chen's image began to fade. But before she disappeared completely, she said one final thing. Thank you for this opportunity. We look forward to learning from all of you, and we hope that together we can build a galaxy where no one has to hide who they really are. The chamber fell quiet after she was gone. Then, slowly, the beings began to talk among themselves. They spoke of new possibilities, of technologies that could benefit everyone, of a future where strength served wisdom instead of conquest. Captain Elena Vasquez stared at the main screen of the UES Defiant. The black space around them looked peaceful, but she knew better. 3 days ago, she had watched humanity's entire fleet burn at Proxima Station. 47 ships destroyed, in less than 2 hours. The Zorathians had torn through Earth's finest warships like they were made of paper. Now the Defiant was alone. 847 souls aboard, probably the last free humans in the galaxy. Helena's hand shook as she gripped the command chair. She was 34 years old and had never expected to be humanity's last hope. Captain, said Lieutenant Williams from the tactical station. His voice was rough. Half his face was covered in burns from their escape at Proxima. We're getting distress signals from the Kepler system. Sounds like civilians. Elena closed her eyes. More humans trapped and dying while the Zorathians hunted them down like animals. The reptilian aliens had declared war on humanity 6 months ago. They called it the final cleansing. They wanted every human dead. How many ships do they have in that system? Elena asked. Scans show at least 3 Zorathian destroyers, Williams replied. Maybe more hiding behind the planets. Chief Engineer Rodriguez spoke up from his station. Captain, our quantum drive is barely holding together. One more jump and we might not make it back out. Elena nodded. She knew their ship was dying. The Defiant had taken heavy damage at Proxima Station. They had escape pods ready, but where could they go? Every human world was burning. Every colony was ash. Dr. Sarah Chen walked onto the bridge. The ship's doctor and scientist looked tired. She had been working for days without sleep, trying to understand Zorathian technology from the wreckage they had collected. Captain, I need to show you something, Sarah said. She activated a small hologram projector. The image of a Zorathian soldier appeared. The alien was tall and covered in green scales. Its eyes were cold and yellow like a snake. I've been studying their brain patterns, Sarah explained. The Zorathians don't think like us. They see humans as insects, pests to be removed. They actually believe showing mercy is a mental disease. Elena felt sick. She had heard the reports from the colonies. The Zorathians didn't just kill humans quickly. They took their time. They seemed to enjoy the fear and pain they caused. There has to be something we can use against them, Elena said. Some weakness. Sarah shook her head. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours. Their ships are bigger and stronger. They have weapons we can barely understand. The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew the truth. Humanity was finished. The Zorathians had won. Then Marcus, the ship's AI, spoke up. His voice was calm and electronic. Captain, I have calculated our odds of survival if we continue running and hiding. Let me guess, Elena said. Not good. 0.003%, Marcus replied. However, those calculations assume we continue using standard military tactics. Elena looked up with interest. What do you mean? The Zorathians expect us to act like a defeated military force. They expect us to follow the rules of war. But perhaps we should consider that the rules no longer apply. Williams turned around in his chair. The AI is right, Captain. We're already dead. The whole human race is dead. Maybe it's time we started acting like ghosts. Elena thought about this. The Zorathians had destroyed everything she cared about. Her home world of New Geneva was gone. Her family was dead. The woman she loved had died at Proxima Station when the battleship Yorktown exploded. Marcus, how many humans are left in the galaxy? Elena asked. Unknown, Captain. But based on distress signals, I estimate fewer than 10,000 survivors, scattered across multiple systems. 10,000 humans out of billions. Elena felt anger building in her chest. The Zorathians thought they had won. They thought humanity would just lie down and die quietly. Rodriguez, how long to repair the quantum drive? Elena asked. Maybe 3 weeks if we can find the right materials, the engineer replied. Williams, start planning hit-and-run attacks. Small targets, Zorathian outposts with few defenders. Captain? Williams looked confused. Elena stood up from her chair. Her voice grew stronger. We're going to save every human we can find, and we're going to make the Zorathians pay for what they've done. Sarah looked worried. Elena, we can't fight their entire empire. We don't need to fight their empire, Elena replied. We just need to hurt them. Show them that humans don't die quietly. Over the next few hours, Elena addressed the entire crew. She explained their situation honestly. Earth was gone. The colonies were destroyed. They were probably the last free humans in the galaxy, but she also gave them a choice. They could try to run and hide, hoping to find some safe corner of the galaxy to wait out their lives, or they could fight back, make the Zorathians remember humanity. The crew voted. It wasn't even close. 712 votes to fight, 135 votes to run. The humans of the Defiant chose war. Elena appointed Williams as her second in command. Rodriguez would keep the ship flying no matter what. Sarah would study Zorathian technology, looking for any advantage they could find. They started planning their first mission. The Kepler system had 3 destroyers hunting human survivors. The Defiant would go in fast, rescue who they could, and get out before the Zorathians could respond. But Elena knew this was just the beginning. The Zorathians had wanted to exterminate humanity. They had come close to succeeding, but they had made one mistake. They had left witnesses. Elena stared out at the stars and made a promise. Every human death would be paid for. Every burned colony would be remembered. The Zorathians thought humans were weak because they showed mercy. Soon they would learn the difference between mercy and weakness, and they would learn what happened when humans had nothing left to lose. The Defiant changed course toward the Kepler system. Behind them, space looked empty and peaceful. Ahead of them lay the unknown. But Elena no longer feared what was coming. She had found something stronger than fear. She had found purpose. The last ship of humanity sailed into the dark, carrying the ghosts of 8 billion dead. And those ghosts were hungry for revenge. 3 months had passed since the Defiant began its war against the Zorathian Empire. Elena barely recognized herself in the mirror anymore. Her black hair was shorter now, cut for practical reasons. Her eyes had grown harder. The woman who had once followed military rules and regulations was gone. The ship's corridor walls were covered with photos, faces of the humans they had rescued, names of the colonies they had been too late to save. Every face reminded the crew why they fought. Elena walked into the war room where her officers were planning their next mission. Williams had changed too. The burns on his face had healed, but they left scars that made him look fierce. He was no longer the polite young officer who had served under her before Proxima Station. "Report," Elena said as she sat down at the metal table. "We've hit 12 Zorathian outposts in the last month," Williams replied. "Rescued 400 and 37 civilians. But the enemy is adapting, they're grouping their forces together more." Sarah looked up from her tablet. "I've been analyzing the Zorathian communication signals we intercept. They're calling us the Ghost Ship. Their command is frustrated because we don't fight like they expect." Elena nodded. The Zorathians were used to fighting other advanced civilizations, ships that followed normal battle tactics. The Defiant did things that made no sense to alien minds. Rodriguez spoke up from his corner of the room. "Captain, the quantum drive is working better than expected. We can probably make 20 more jumps before it breaks down completely." 20 jumps. Elena did the math in her head. If they were careful, that could mean 20 more rescue missions, maybe 1,000 more human lives saved. "What about our new enemy?" Elena asked. Williams activated the hologram projector. The image of a Zorathian appeared, but this one was different. It wore better armor and had more scars. Its yellow eyes seemed intelligent in a dangerous way. "Commander Zethkar," Williams said. "Zorathian military intelligence thinks he's their best tactical officer. He's been studying our attack patterns." Elena studied the alien's face. "What makes him special?" "He's the first Zorathian who seems to understand that we're not following normal military doctrine," Sarah explained. "Most of their commanders expect us to protect our ship above all else. Zethkar has figured out that we'll sacrifice anything to hurt them." Elena remembered their last mission at the Tau Ceti mining station. They had found 300 human prisoners being used for experiments. The Zorathians were testing how much pain humans could survive before they died. Elena had ordered the rescue, even though it meant exposing the Defiant to enemy fire. They had saved 218 people. 82 had been too damaged by the experiments to survive. "The escape. The prisoners we rescued from Tau Ceti," Elena said. "What did they tell us about Zorathian psychology?" Sarah pulled up her notes. "The Zorathians have a rigid caste system. The higher castes view mercy as a mental illness. They literally cannot understand why we keep fighting when we're clearly defeated." "But this Zethkar is different?" Elena asked. "Yes. The survivors said he visited the prison camp several times. He watched the human prisoners. He seemed to be studying how we react to hopeless situations." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. An enemy who was learning from them was dangerous. "Where is he now?" Elena asked. Williams changed the hologram to show a star map. "Intelligence suggests he's taken command of the Zorathian forces in the Vega sector, 3 battleships and at least 7 destroyers. That's where we detected the distress signal from Kepler 442b, Rodriguez added. The mining colony there is still sending out automated emergency broadcasts." Elena stood up and walked to the star map. Kepler 442b was deep in Zorathian-controlled space. It would be their most dangerous mission yet. "How many humans might still be alive there?" Elena asked. "Unknown," Marcus replied through the room's speakers. "But the mining colony had a population of almost 2,000 before the invasion." Elena closed her eyes. 2,000 people, families with children, workers who had never asked to be part of this war. Now they were probably prisoners or worse. It's a trap, Williams said quietly. Zethkar is using the survivors as bait. He wants us to come. Elena opened her eyes and looked at her officers. 3 months ago, she would have called off the mission, too dangerous, too likely to result in the loss of their ship and crew. But that Elena was gone. The woman who stood here now had watched too many humans die, had seen too many burned colonies, had listened to too many stories from rescued prisoners about what the Zorathians did to their victims. We're going, Elena said. Captain, Rodriguez protested. If we lose the ship, we can't save anyone else. And if we don't go, those 2,000 people will die, Elena replied. We didn't choose to be humanity's last hope, but we are. And that means we don't get to play it safe. Sarah looked worried. Elena, what if this Zethkar really is learning to predict our tactics? Elena smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. Then we'll have to do something he doesn't expect. Over the next 2 days, they planned the Kepler 442b mission. Elena studied everything they knew about Zethkar. The Zorathian commander was smart, but he had one weakness. He still thought like a Zorathian. Zorathians fought to win. Humans fought to survive. But the crew of the Defiant had learned to fight like something else entirely. They fought like people who were already dead. Elena addressed the crew before they jumped to Kepler 442b. She told them honestly that they might not survive this mission, that they were flying into a trap set by the enemy's best tactical mind. But she also reminded them why they fought. For the billions of humans who had already died. For the thousands they had already saved. For the chance that somewhere in the galaxy, humanity might survive. The crew cheered. Not because they wanted to die, but because they had found something worth dying for. Elena returned to the bridge and gave the order. Marcus, take us to Kepler 442b. Course set, Captain, the AI replied, as the Defiant jumped through space toward the trap that awaited them. Elena felt strangely calm. She had started this war as a starship captain. She was ending it as something the galaxy had never seen before. A human with nothing left to lose. The Zorathians had wanted to hunt humanity to extinction. Soon they would learn what happened when the prey decided to hunt back. The Defiant dropped out of quantum jump at the edge of the Kepler 442b system. Elena immediately saw that Williams had been right. It was definitely a trap. 3 Zorathian battleships waited in formation around the mining colony. Their massive hulls gleamed dark green in the light of the system's star. Each ship was 3 times the size of the Defiant and packed with weapons that could destroy a human vessel with a single shot. Well, Williams said from his tactical station, at least we know where Zethkar is. Elena nodded. The center battleship was broadcasting Zorathian command frequencies. That had to be their enemy's flagship. Any sign of human survivors? Elena asked. Sarah checked her sensors. I'm detecting life signs in the colony's underground shelters. Maybe 300 people still alive. Elena felt her heart sink. 300 out of 2,000. The Zorathians had been busy while they waited for the Defiant to arrive. Captain, Marcus announced, we are receiving a transmission from the Zorathian flagship. Elena straightened in her command chair. Put it on screen. The main display showed Commander Zethkar. He was larger than the other Zorathians Elena had seen, with darker green scales and more battle scars. His yellow eyes studied her with what might have been curiosity. When he spoke, his voice was translated by the ship's computer. It sounded cold and mechanical. Captain Elena Vasquez of the human vessel Defiant. I am Commander Zethkar of the Zorathian Imperial Fleet. I have been studying your tactics for several weeks now. Elena said nothing. She waited for him to continue. Your species interests me, Zethkar said. Most civilizations surrender when faced with superior force, but humans seem to become more dangerous when they are losing. Is there a point to this conversation? Elena asked. Zethkar's mouth opened slightly. Elena realized he was attempting what passed for a Zorathian smile. I am offering you terms of surrender. Your crew will be given quick deaths, The survivors on the planet will be allowed to live as experimental subjects. This is more mercy than any other human has received. Elena felt anger burning in her chest, but she kept her voice calm. And if I refuse, then I will demonstrate why the Zorathian Empire has conquered 47 star systems, Zethkar replied. Your ship will be destroyed slowly. The humans on the planet will suffer for many days before they die. Elena looked around the bridge at her crew. Williams was watching the tactical display, calculating firing angles. Rodriguez was monitoring the ship's systems, ready to push them beyond their limits. Sarah was studying the Zorathian ships, looking for any weakness they could exploit. None of them looked afraid. They looked ready. Commander Zethkar, Elena said, I have a counteroffer. The Zorathian tilted his head, apparently curious. Elena smiled. Go to hell. She cut the transmission and turned to Williams. Battle stations. All hands prepare for combat. The bridge lights dimmed to red. Throughout the ship, Elena could hear the sounds of humans preparing to fight impossible odds. They had done this before. Captain, Sarah said suddenly, I'm reading something strange from the Zorathian ships. What kind of strange? Sarah's fingers flew over her console. Their formation. It's perfect for fighting other capital ships, but it leaves them vulnerable to smaller vessels using hit-and-run tactics. Elena looked at the tactical display. Sarah was right. The three battleships were positioned to cover each other with overlapping fire. It was a classic defensive formation, but it assumed the enemy would approach directly and try to trade shots. They're fighting the war they know how to fight, Elena realized. Not the war we're actually fighting. Williams looked up from his station. Captain, I have an idea, but it's completely insane. Elena had learned to trust Williams when he said something was insane. His crazy plans had saved them more than once. Let's hear it. Williams activated the tactical hologram. We use the asteroid field at the edge of the system. Make them think we're running away. When they chase us into the field, we overload our fusion reactors and use the explosion to trigger an asteroid cascade. Elena studied the plan. It was suicide. The Defiant would be destroyed in the explosion, but if it worked, the cascade might take out all three Zorathian ships. The survivors on the planet, Elena said. We can't save them if we're dead. Sarah looked up from her console. Actually, we might be able to. I've been studying Zorathian behavior patterns. When their commanders die, the lower ranks often retreat rather than continue the mission. Elena thought about this. It was a huge gamble, but they were already betting everything just by being here. Marcus, Elena said, calculate the odds of success for Lieutenant Williams' plan. Probability of destroying all three Zorathian vessels, 43%. Probability of crew survival, 0%. Elena nodded. Those weren't good odds for survival, but they were excellent odds for revenge. What about using the escape pods? Rodriguez asked. The Zorathians would hunt them down, Williams replied. But if their command structure is disrupted, they might focus on retreating instead. Elena looked around the bridge one more time. These people had followed her into hell for 3 months. They had trusted her to lead humanity's last stand. Now she was asking them to die for 300 strangers on a planet they had never seen. All hands, Elena announced over the ship's communication system. This is the captain. We have a choice to make. We can run away and live a few more weeks, or we can save 300 humans and show the galaxy that humanity doesn't die quietly. I need a vote from the crew. The responses came back quickly through Marcus. Elena wasn't surprised by the result. 847 votes to fight, 0 votes to run. Elena smiled. She was proud of her people. Set course for the asteroid field, Elena ordered. Let's give Commander Zethkar a lesson in human tactics. The Defiant turned away from the Zorathian ships and accelerated toward the edge of the system. Behind them, the 3 battleships began to pursue just as Williams had predicted. As they flew toward their final battle, Elena thought about the billions of humans who had died in this war. They had been farmers and teachers and children. They had never asked to be heroes, but the crew of the Defiant had chosen to be something else. They had chosen to be ghosts, the vengeful spirits of a murdered species. Soon the Zorathians would learn that some ghosts don't rest quietly. The Defiant raced through the asteroid field with 3 Zorathian battleships in pursuit. Elena watched the tactical display as the massive enemy vessels followed them deeper into the floating rocks and debris. "They're taking the bait," Williams reported. "All 3 ships are maintaining pursuit formation." Elena nodded. Zethkar was smart, but he was still thinking like a Zorathian commander. He expected the Defiant to try to escape, so he was using standard pursuit tactics. He had no idea what Elena was really planning. "Rodriguez, status on the reactor overload?" Elena asked. "Ready when you give the word, Captain," the engineer replied. "But once I start the sequence, we have maybe 2 minutes before the ship explodes." Elena looked at the asteroid field around them. Williams had chosen the perfect location. The asteroids here were packed with heavy metals and unstable compounds. When the Defiant's fusion reactors exploded, the blast would trigger a chain reaction that would tear through the entire field. "Sarah, any change in Zorathian behavior?" Elena asked. Dr. Chen shook her head. "They're still following standard pursuit doctrine. Zethkar hasn't figured out what we're doing yet." Suddenly, Marcus announced new information. "Captain, I am receiving an encrypted transmission from the mining colony. It appears to be from the human survivors." Elena felt a surge of hope. "Put it through." The voice that came through the speakers was weak and scared. It sounded like a young woman. "This is Dr. Lisa Park at Kepler 442b mining station. If anyone can hear this, please help us. The Zorathians have been using us for experiments. They're trying to understand how human pain responses work." Elena's hands clenched into fists. She had heard similar reports from other colonies they had rescued. The Zorathians didn't just kill humans. They studied them like lab animals. The transmission continued. "There are 296 of us left. We're hiding in the deep shelters, but they'll find us soon. If you're receiving this message, please remember us. Tell the galaxy what they did to us." The transmission cut off. Elena felt tears forming in her eyes, but she wiped them away. She couldn't afford to show weakness now. "Captain," Williams said, quietly, "there might be another way. If we can disable their shields instead of destroying the ships, we could beam down rescue teams." Elena shook her head. "With what ships, Williams? We're the only rescue vessel left. If we survive this battle, Zethkar will just call for reinforcements. Those people will die either way." Elena activated the ship's internal communication system. She needed to address the crew one final time. "All hands, this is Captain Vasquez. In 30 minutes, we're going to die. But our deaths will save 300 innocent people and destroy 3 Zorathian battleships. More importantly, we're going to send a message to the galaxy." Elena paused, choosing her words carefully. "For 6 months, the Zorathians have hunted humans like animals. They've burned our worlds and tortured our people. They think we're weak because we show mercy to our enemies. Today we show them the difference between mercy and weakness." The crew was quiet, listening to every word. "When we're gone, the survivors we've rescued will carry our story to other species. They'll tell the galaxy about the last ship of humanity, about 847 humans who refused to surrender, about people who chose to die fighting rather than live on their knees." Elena's voice grew stronger. "The Zorathians wanted to erase humanity from history. Instead, they're going to make us immortal. Every species in the galaxy will remember the humans who fought back. They'll remember the Defiant." Throughout the ship, Elena could hear her crew cheering. They weren't cheering for death. They were cheering for the chance to matter, to make their lives count for something. 30 seconds to optimal position, Williams reported. Elena looked around the bridge one last time. These people had become her family during their months of war. Rodriguez, who had kept their dying ship flying through impossible battles. Sarah, who had studied their enemies and found ways to hurt them. Williams, who had planned their attacks and never lost faith in their mission. "It's been an honor serving with all of you," Elena said. "The honor was ours, Captain," Williams replied. Elena turned to Rodriguez. "Begin the reactor overload sequence." The engineer's hands moved over his controls. Warning lights began flashing throughout the ship. The computer started announcing countdown warnings. Reactor overload initiated. Cascade failure in 120 seconds. Elena opened a channel to the Zorathian flagship. She wanted Zethkar to understand what was happening. The alien commander appeared on screen again. This time he looked concerned. "Captain Vasquez, your ship's reactor is becoming unstable. You must evacuate immediately." Elena smiled. "There's nowhere to evacuate to, Commander. And that's not a malfunction. It's our final gift to you." Zethkar's eyes widened as he realized what Elena meant. "You cannot be serious. You would destroy your own vessel?" "I told you to go to hell," Elena replied. "I'm just making sure you get there." Elena could see panic beginning to spread on the Zorathian bridge behind Zethkar. His officers were shouting in their alien language. "This is insane," Zethkar said. "Your species' attachment to individual lives is a weakness. You should preserve your ship to fight another day." Elena laughed. It wasn't a pleasant sound. "You still don't understand us, do you? You think we're fighting to win, but we're not fighting to win, Commander. We're fighting to hurt you. And dead humans can hurt you just as much as living ones." Elena cut the transmission. On the tactical display, she could see the Zorathian ships trying to reverse course and escape the asteroid field. But they were too big and moving too fast. They wouldn't make it out in time. 60 seconds to cascade failure, Marcus announced. Elena closed her eyes and thought about Earth. She remembered the blue skies and green forests of her childhood. She thought about the billions of humans who had died in this war. Children who would never grow up. Families torn apart. Entire worlds reduced to ash. 30 seconds. Elena opened her eyes and looked at the stars on the main screen. Somewhere, out there scattered across the galaxy, a few thousand humans were still alive. The people they had rescued would rebuild. They would have children. They would remember. 10 seconds. Elena stood up from her command chair. Around her, the bridge. Crew prepared for the end. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The Defiant's fusion reactors exploded in a flash of white light that could be seen from 3 star systems away. The blast triggered a cascade reaction through the asteroid field that tore apart space itself. When the light faded, nothing remained but expanding debris and radiation. The 3 Zorathian battleships were gone. The Defiant was gone. But on the planet below, 296 humans crawled out of their shelters and looked up at the sky where their rescuers had died. To save them, the last ship of humanity was gone. But its legend had just begun. 50 years had passed since the destruction of the UES Defiant. The galaxy was a very different place now. Ambassador Maria Santos walked through the halls of the Galactic Council Station. She was one of the survivors the Defiant had rescued from the Tau Ceti mining facility. The scars from Zorathian experiments still marked her arms, but she wore them proudly. They were reminders of what her species had endured. As she passed other delegates in the corridor, Maria noticed how they looked at her, some with respect, others with fear. All of them knew she was human, and that meant something now. Maria entered the council chamber where representatives from 43 different species had gathered. She took her seat at the table marked with Earth's symbol. It felt strange to represent a world that had been rebuilt from ashes. The Thrakari delegate, a tall being with blue skin and 4 arms, called the meeting to order. "We are here to discuss the Zorathian situation," the Thrakari announced. "It has been 50 years since their empire collapsed. The question before us is whether they should be allowed to govern themselves again." Maria looked across the room at the Zorathian representative. The alien sat quietly in his chair, staring at the floor. His species had changed dramatically since the war. Dr. Sarah Chen's viral weapon had worked exactly as planned. It hadn't killed the Zorathians, but it had changed them. The virus attacked the part of their brains that controlled aggression and dominance. Now they were incapable of violence. They had become a species of peaceful philosophers and artists. Some species called it justice. Others called it genocide. Maria called it survival. The Altarian delegate spoke first. The Zorathians have been model citizens for decades. They have contributed greatly to galactic art and literature. Perhaps it is time to restore their independence. Several other delegates nodded in agreement. The Zorathians had indeed become valuable members of galactic society. Their unique perspective on existence, shaped by their forced transformation, had led to remarkable discoveries in science and philosophy. But Maria remembered what they had been before. "May I speak?" Maria asked. The chamber fell silent. When humans spoke in the Galactic Council, everyone listened. Not because they had to, but because they had learned to respect the species that had refused to die quietly. Maria stood up from her chair. Even after 50 years, her voice still carried the authority of someone who had survived the impossible. "I was there when the Zorathians conducted their final cleansing," Maria began. "I watched them burn colonies full of children. I felt their claws as they used me for experiments to see how much pain a human could survive." The chamber remained silent. Everyone had heard these stories, but hearing them from a survivor was different. "The Zorathians didn't just want to kill us," Maria continued. "They wanted to erase us from history. They wanted the galaxy to forget that humans had ever existed." Maria walked around the table, looking at each delegate, but they made a mistake. They left survivors, and those survivors told the galaxy about the UES Defiant, about Captain Elena Vasquez and her crew of 847 humans who chose death over surrender. Maria stopped in front of the Zorathian delegate. The alien looked up at her with eyes that now held sadness instead of cruelty. "I don't hate you," Maria said to the Zorathian. "Hatred is what your species felt before the virus changed you, but I will never forget what you were, and neither will the galaxy." Maria returned to her seat and addressed the entire council. "Today, humanity has colonies on 67 worlds. Our population has grown from fewer than 10,000 survivors to over 2 billion people. We've rebuilt our civilization and joined the galactic community." Several delegates nodded. Humanity's recovery had been remarkable. The species that had almost gone extinct was now one of the most influential in the galaxy. "But we carry the memory of those who died," Maria continued. "Every human child learns about the Defiant. Every human knows the price of mercy when facing absolute evil." The Thrakari delegate leaned forward. "Are you saying humans oppose Zorathian independence?" Maria shook her head. "I'm saying that humans understand the value of memory. The Zorathians are peaceful now because they have no choice, but memories fade. Viruses can be cured, species can evolve." Maria stood up again, and her voice grew stronger. 50 years ago, Captain Elena Vasquez sent a message to this galaxy. She showed you what happens when you push humans too far. That message is the only reason many of you treat us as equals instead of seeing us as another species to conquer." The chamber was completely silent now. Maria could see recognition in the eyes of the older delegates. They remembered when humans were considered weak because they showed mercy to their enemies. "The Zorathians can have their independence," Maria said finally, "but they will have it under human supervision. They will remember what they were, and they will remember what humanity became when they tried to destroy us." The vote was unanimous. The Zorathians would govern themselves, but human observers would remain on their worlds, not as conquerors, but as reminders. After the meeting ended, Maria walked to the station's observation deck. Through the massive windows, she could see stars stretching out across the galaxy. Somewhere among those stars was Earth, green and blue and alive again. But Maria wasn't thinking about Earth. She was thinking about a small section of space near Kepler 442b, where a monument floated in the void. The memorial marked the spot where the Defiant had made its final stand. Every year, ships from dozens of species visited that monument. They came to read the names of the 847 humans who had chosen to die fighting. They came to understand what the inscription meant. "Here lies the crew of the UES Defiant. They refused mercy to those who showed none. They chose vengeance over survival. They chose to matter." Maria smiled as she looked out at the stars. Captain Vasquez had been right. The Defiant's sacrifice had made humanity immortal. not because they had lived, but because they had been willing to die. A young human officer approached Maria. He was part of the new generation, born after the war on one of the rebuilt colonies. "Ambassador," the young officer said, "I have a message from Earth. The new ship is ready for launch." Maria nodded. She had heard about the project, humanity's largest colony ship ever built. It would carry 50,000 volunteers to establish settlements in the unexplored regions beyond the galactic rim. "What did they name her?" Maria asked. The young officer smiled. "The UES Elena Vasquez, ma'am." Maria felt tears forming in her eyes. 50 years later, and humanity was still carrying the spirit of the defiant into the unknown. "And the ship's motto?" Maria asked, though she already knew the answer. The young officer stood straighter, pride evident in his voice. "Mercy is earned, not given." Maria looked out at the stars one more time. Somewhere in the darkness, the ghost of Elena Vasquez was smiling. Humanity had returned to the galaxy, and everyone remembered why they had learned to fear the species that refused to die. Quietly, the last ship had become the first ship of humanity's future, and the galaxy would never be the same.